All right, so we're going to get this party started. We're going to be talking about a project that we've been working on called Mirage. So a quick intro on who we are.
My name's Adam Crompton. Creative night show exfiltration tool. I work for a company. And my Twitter handle is encoder.
Hey everybody, my name's Mick Douglas. Hey. And you can find me on Twitter at BetterSafetyNet. And I'm one of the co-hosts for Hack Naked TV, which is the Security Weekly video podcast. It's about 15 minutes once a week, and it's very loosely tied with the Security Weekly podcast. So feel free to check them both out. But we have a whole lot of fun doing that video podcast, and hope you check it out. We also have a whole lot of fun doing the regular podcast. Check that out. Thanks for paying attention to both of those. I work at Black Hills InfoSec. Love my job. It's really cool. I love DerbyCon a lot. I blew off my 20-year high school reunion in order to attend this con. So, hey. So, we've got the standard boilerplate disclaimers to go through. So, Adam, you want to do yours?
Yep. Anything I say here is my own opinion, my own comments. This has no reflection to my employer. So I'll pass the mic to Mick to tell all his disclaimers.
I like turtles. With jetpacks. So here's the deal. I'm fortunate that I work at a place where I don't have a whole lot of as many regulatory requirements on. So certainly I'm not speaking on behalf of my employer, but it's not as big of a deal that I'm talking. So, now let's kick it off. So, yay DerbyCon. Everybody having a good time, DerbyCon? All right, cool. Thank you all for attending. This is really cool to see you all out here, seeing friends and friends I haven't met just yet. So, this is a hacker conference, right? So, let's start things off right. Let's pop a box. So, here's the scenario. You come in, you're either an attacker or a pen tester, and they say, hey, let's just attack this web app. So you hop into the web app, like so, and here let me zoom in so y'all can see that a little easier. So you got your regular website where you're going to have your username, password, login. So what do you start doing when you're going to attack something like this? This is the audience participation portion. Start typing stuff, try logging in, brute forcing. Well, so you could do that, or you could start with some recon. You could see what's going on this particular server. One of the things that always makes me sad is when people do like capture the flag type events, and they never look in the robots.txt file. 2 years ago at the capture the flag here in DerbyCon, they actually had a flag inside the robots.txt, and I hate to admit it, but I was in a team that missed that. So lesson learned, and now I always check the robots.txt. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Whoops. And then you're going to see, they've got your regular robots.txt type stuff. And instantly, your attention should draw right away to a disallow. Now, this is not Iron Geek's site, so any disallow directory is fair game. If you've not been to Iron Geek's disallow site, I caution you, because you can't unsee certain things. I'm just going to leave it that. So we got temp, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Boom. Directory indexing. Show of hands here. Who are my pen testers? Do web assessment type stuff in the crowd? All right, keep your hand up if you've seen stuff like this in the real world. Those of you who aren't pen testers, note the hands that are up. This isn't hacking. This is simple stuff. All you are is a badly behaved robot at that point, and it's super easy, super effective. You get all sorts of stuff. Now, let's say I'm attacking this stuff, and I'm like, sweet, I've got all these raises, this welcome and login stuff. Now, anybody know what an XLSM file is? Macro-enabled Excel spreadsheets. So I know as an attacker, I'm not going to click on that because macros could be potentially problematic. If this is something that interests you, like making your own malware type stuff, you should check out Jeff Thayer's talk at, Joff Thayer, sorry, Joff. You should check out his talk that he's going to be given to later today on this very topic. He's got a really, really cool script, Powersploit Gen, that will bypass every stinking antivirus out there. It's really wicked effective, and if you can copy and paste, you can use it. Apparently, I have trouble copying and pasting because Joff had to give me some coaching on how to use it. So, here we got this attack. I'm the bad guy. One of the things that I'm going to drive right away to is this welcome and login, because this clearly is some sort of HR directory. Welcome and login sounds like, hey, get to work. So you click this link and you see the download started. Let's unzoom. And you can see that we've got this, whoops, got to be very careful. There, so we got this welcome to Globotron. And boom, here you see, again, this isn't hacking, but this is the sort of stuff that you encounter all day, every day when you're doing pen testing. It's not every system that's going to be this badly configured, but enough of them are that you're going to find this. In fact, the larger the enterprise, the greater the likelihood that you're going to run into this kind of stuff. So, what are you going to do? Try it. Yeah, like, anybody who doesn't see, like, a telnet with the credentials and doesn't do it, like, you and I are very different people, is all I can say. So, we're going to telnet in. So, we're going to telnet. And is it going to work? Boom, Microsoft Telnet Services. So the login was Smith R2. And let me just do it was the password. And now we're in. So now, all of a sudden, we're attacking the network. We're in. We're going to start doing all kinds of stuff. So what do you do once you get into an environment? Start listing directories. Start doing recon. You start finding out what's going on in that environment. So you can do things like one of my favorite commands to run are the net commands. So net like this, and you can see here's all these different net commands. So you could do something like net use to see what sort of network shares they've got going on. No entries in the list. Okay, so that might not be unusual if they've not connected to any network shares. So then maybe we could do something like net group. Okay. This is something that you'll often find, especially when you're doing client-side exploits, because you're not a domain controller. Okay, no big worries. So now we know we're in a domain environment. We know that they don't have any network shares. We know that they're connected, but that they're not a domain controller. No big deals. Let's continue the exploration. Let's do our net local groups and see, all right, here's all the accounts. Let's see if we're an administrator account with our Smith R2. Fingers crossed we are. So net local group. Oh, man, hard times. Now, you got to admit, so far, so good. In fact, almost unbelievably so, but we don't have local admin. Do we just log out and cry? No, we're going to keep on pressing because we've got to pop this box. So let's continue. Let's see, like, let's do things like, earlier you said list directory, so let's go ahead and do that. Boom, paydirt, passwords.txt. I can't count the number of times I've seen this sort of thing. So we'll just type this up. And then we got this new IP address with this username and password right here. So let's crack open a new new shell. Here, let me get that a little out of the way. All right, so we're going to go ahead and ping that new box. $142. Oh, it's not connecting. So that's weird, right? Because we're not able to connect. Well, maybe there's a firewall between us and that particular box. So let's see if the one that we're telnetted it into can be used as a pivot. So we're going to go ahead and ping this same IP. And, oh, hey, it looks like today's our lucky day. So now we're going to go ahead and do the telnet. Let's get the username and password up so I can see it. Whoops. Helps if I remember how these protocols work. Yeah, I wish it were SSH. It would be a better scenario. All right, so now we go ahead and we get our login. So we go Mark 203. And then the password of Kittens 101. And boom, we're logged in as that person. And now we can begin our exploitation, or not exploitation, our post-exploitation enumeration all over again. We do a dir, and we see that we got the social security numbers. We've hit our victory condition in our pen test. Woo! Way to go.
Dude, you know what talk this is?
Yeah, oh.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's a talk on honeypots.
Yes.
I've been had.
Exactly.
Oh.
Jeez. It's craziness. Let me go back.
Hold on just a second. We're having some minor technical issues. Yeah, let me try that. That'll probably help a lot. Oh, we've got the, sorry, technology. Okay. Almost there. All right, so we had our demo. So the harsh reality.
So, as you can see, we kind of try to build out some things in modules that we could use for that was not pretty much a Windows server, right? As you can see. And the harsh reality was that he was going through the box, enumerating the box, pivoting, and pretty much he had nothing, right? Like, that whole transaction of him going through the whole entire box was all of Mirage, right?
Reality.
Yeah. Yeah, so pretty much what just happened, right? So Mirage pretty much is a honeypot. It's a young honeypot, actually. It's written in Python 2.7. So it's not even, yeah, it's pretty much, it was on a Mac OS box, not even running Windows. So it's a Python pretty much executable that runs in 2.7. It has a couple modules as of right now, and we're trying to break out some more.
Yeah, so now we realize that there's plenty of other honeypot technologies out there. Some of them are open source, some of them are, pay to play, and that's cool. There's, of course, things like HoneyNetD. Want to give a shout out to HoneyPoint. There's Nova. There's, plenty of others. And, what we're trying to do is offer another tool out there for the blue team to have. One of the things that makes me a little sad is too strong of a word, but it is funny when you go to conferences like this that there's so many tools and so many talks about red team type tools, and there's not enough stuff for the blue guys. Blue team is sexy. Absolutely. And so, you know, what we're shooting for is something that you can do that will, and, you know, this is a spoiler for a slide later on, but what we're trying to do is give you something that will annoy and increase the attribution of the attackers. And so, as you can see, one of the things that this does is it slows them down. It creates this fantasy land for them. So, go ahead and check out those honeypot technologies that are out there. Find one that you like. Maybe ours isn't the right one. You know, Mirage might not be the tool for you. You know, it's under heavy development right now. We think that it's a whole lot of fun to play with. But show of hands here, who's got the CISSP? I got it. Come on, admit it. All right. So you guys all remember what the ISC squared tells you about honeypot technologies, right? They get like especially preachy on these questions. They're like, honeypots are very bad and scary. As a matter of fact, honeypots will sometimes invite the attackers. Like, well, really? You know, the attackers are already there. It's not that the honeypot's going to make them, like, show up. So we think that this is just a load of crap. So, now, there are some cool things that Mirage might be perfect for you.
So it's pretty much easy to start. And the way we started going about this was we tried to kind of wedge ports that are normal inside of networks into kind of like a production environment, enterprise environment, to kind of trigger if anyone connects to that port, send an alert to the SOC team or the blue team. Also, having some type of syslog of every single command that was done on the box to know what the actual attacker did.
Do you want to show the logs?
Oh yeah, I can do that.
Yep. So, let's do that. Okay, so then from here, I don't know where you put the, do you just want to pop a new one and, okay.
Yeah, just...
Yep. Awesome. So what you were looking at right there was a very brief look at the command line interface for Mirage. And one of the things that's neat about it is that there's some pretty robust logging out the get-go for the different modules or the different listener services that the bad guys connect to. And while most honeypot technologies already have this capability, the thing that's nice about this and other honeypot tools is that you can use this as kind of like a measuring stick for how skilled your attackers are. And you can use that as almost like a real-time threat analysis engine for yourself. Why is it running as root? Because we were running it on low-order ports and on some of the demo-type stuff that we were doing. We could have kicked it out. We know that that's a thing. Remember how we said it's in heavy development and young? Yeah, we'll be fixing that.
So this is pretty much exactly the demo that Mick was going through to show you how he pretty much all the logs that were saved off as he went through the box, doing the net commands, also the dir commands, the typed commands on the password text file, the ping, also telnetting to that other pivoted box and logging in with creds. So with that, I mean, you can pretty much see that it has robust logging. I'll show you the web logs also so you can get an understanding of what that is, what that looks like. So every single piece of the web log, it pretty much takes the request that gets sent from the client application and pretty much logs everything that gets sent over in a log file. So, cool.
Whoops. Wrong clicky box. All right, so one of the things that I think that's rather clever about Mirage is how lightweight it is. A lot of honey technologies, if you have not played with them before, Where they get a bad rap is that some of them will require some pretty intensive resources to virtualize the environment that's going on. The way Adam came up with a really clever hack of doing this where all of the call and response is handled within a Python script. And so the thing that's really neat about this is the system resources for it are incredibly light. And also the level of exposure is a lot less in terms of, you still are vulnerable to things like command injection, but normal buffer overflows are not going to be in the cards because a lot of HoneyNet technologies will be using things like Apache Web Server or some other service to be handling that environment for you. This is all in Python, so you've got a much smaller set. And again, spoilers, it's all completely in Python, and that's very nice. The other thing that this gets us is that you can have very actionable events. Remember how we said that it's built on a stimulus response type framework? We now have the ability to have granular control on how things do. This gives us an opportunity to have automated response. About 2 years ago, I gave a talk in Cleveland B-Sides on a tool called Sprinkler that I wasn't able to release due to a couple issues. And I'm going to be, in talking with lawyer friends of mine, we've got a way to put these techniques into this so that we can do things like, just like artillery does, where you can simply block or do a host-based firewall. We also have things where you can do network-based firewalls, where you're doing ACLs. For those of you who are familiar with the Python framework Trigger, if you've not heard of it, I highly recommend that you check it out. Trigger is an incredibly powerful Python environment that allows you to interact with a wide variety of different network devices, and it abstracts that for you so that you can very simply and easily give very terse commands that will alter how the network works. And that gives us a lot of powerful features. Some of the things that we can do, in addition to ACLs, we can alter routes, which is very humorous, because all of a sudden, instead of somebody attacking your production web environment, they can continue their attacks, their work, and go to a more heavily audited system. I don't know about you guys, but have you ever tried to implement like a web application firewall or some network screening device, and marketing or some other group says, well, but what if they really want to buy our stuff? And you're like, no, they're doing SQL injection. They're not going to buy stuff. And they're like, well, but maybe they will. And you're like, look, they entered drop table. They're not going to buy anything. And they're like, but we can't take that chance. Well, what you can do with a tool like this is you can be creative now. And instead of having them go through your, normal front-end environment, you can actually route them now to one where you're watching at a very higher level and mediating them much better. So it brings us to things that are really cool in terms of active defense. This is something that Black Hills invests a lot of time and research effort on. And we have a great fun amount of stuff that we're going to be doing. One of the core precepts of this particular framework of the active defense book is that you do attribution and annoyance as much as possible. And one of my favorite stories of annoyance that I've ever dealt with professionally is the mystery crypto stream. And some of you have heard this story, and for those of you who have, just keep the spoilers. What happens is, I was doing a capture the flag, and it was a really well-constructed capture the flag environment, but all the teams, or almost all the teams, at a certain point were able to interact with this service that would stream a block of cryptographic text to you. And you'd be like, wow, this is really cool. And you would try to work with it, and you'd try to decrypt it different ways, and nothing happened. Every now and then you would get a word or a couple, number strings or, values, but it was, nobody got this thing. And at the end of the capture the flag event, we were walking through all the flags and how we got them, and that was one of the things that I really enjoyed about it. But then when we got to this crypto string, people were like, yeah, what is going on with this thing? What happened? And the guy who ran the event started laughing. Ladies and gentlemen, what that guy had done was he had piped dev random to Netcat. Because what does a good crypto thing look like? Totally random. This is a very low-tech, yet effective way to do it. And we've got a quick sample of that. Oh, boy. So we're, yep. Oops, hold on. Here, we'll just go from a new one. Okay. And then tell them that to, okay, yeah. Globotron. And so you start seeing this sort of stuff, and it'll keep on flashing by all the time. Now, for bonus points, anybody know why we picked port 4444? Meterpreter. It's like one of the defaults, right? I highly recommend, for the lulz, that you start, doing things like this. Because Meterpreter sessions totally wig out when you do this. It's awesome. Remember, we don't always have to win every single battle. There is times that just annoying the snot out of somebody is good enough. Whatever. Hulk smash. All right, but what about the other projects and stuff? You know what? We love those other projects. We hope that we can collaborate with those other projects. I mean, there's not enough honeypots out there, I would think. There needs to be some more love, and we would love to collaborate with folks. But the one thing that I would like to stress is, like, when you go golfing, you don't just take one club. You have different options available. And so what we're hoping to do is broaden the palette so that you have other options. It's going good. So, Adam, you want to talk a little bit about the design principles?
Yeah. So, we're trying to make this more modular so that when we add new things to the framework, we can actually, it'll make it easier for anyone out there to make modules and add it to the framework.
And the different modules are going to have rough classes. For those of you who are familiar with Metasploit framework, you could loosely think of these as the different module types. So just as there's exploit and post and aux mods, there's going to be one of which is called bait. And bait is where you do things like generating these fake login credentials, these fake user accounts. And so what we'll be doing is generating a whole swath of user data so that it could look like it's part of the domain. In fact, in some instances, you might even want to actually have these be part of your domain services or your LDAP services. You can do some really interesting things where you actually have honey users and create login events that if that account is ever logged into, all of a sudden you know something's up. So it's a very nice layer of defense. One of the other things that we're working on is a paste bin seeder, where you can actually toss these up as fake outs. And if you can see these accounts trying to be logged into, you have a little more telemetry. Very fun stuff. And then, of course, the one that you're most familiar with are the services.
So we're trying to build out more services like FTP, SMB, some more enterprise services that you would normally see when you're penetrating into an environment. So that kind of, when you merge those together with other ports that are actually production ports, it looks real. So, like if you had a server that had 445 and 23 open, right? You would think it would be a Windows box, and if you get creds, you'd probably use the creds to log in, just like you saw before. So we're trying to create more and more services that we can emulate a better kind of trick for the attacker as they connect to those services, and we can send logs to the SIM and alert the SOC or blue team. So,
and it's worth pointing out with the services that because this framework is all done in native Python, it's incredibly lightweight. It's a light touch. So you can do some really clever things like putting a fake web server on your database server. And it's completely reasonable to think that, you know, a lot of places, especially more mom and pop shops, will have, you know, instead of having an N-tier or 3-tier environment, they got 1 tier. They just got the server. So as an attacker, when you're doing recon, you might not know. So you'll just see, hey, here's these services, I'm going to start interacting with them. So you can blend some things and make that be a very interesting holistic picture. Again, one of the things that Adam mentioned was about the response capability. Python, fortunately, is a really cool language to develop in, and one of the things that we are working on are having the ability to stream alert eventing items to syslog, the different API for things like OSIM, QRadar, ArcSight, and others. It's very, very simple to do. And we're under very heavy dev. And, you know, I don't know if you can tell, but we were having a lot of fun up here sharing our story with you guys. We were having a lot of fun building this out. We're going to continue having a lot of fun as we build this out. So hopefully you guys will all join in the fun. Now, if you got time and the ability and you're a good coder, come join in. We need a lot of modules. We need the framework to be grown out. But if you can't code, download it, play with it. Let us know what we're missing. Let us know what we've got wrong. I mean, we just, you know, this is our first time playing with this stuff. We don't know necessarily what's right and wrong. So feel free to mess with it. So I want to say thank you all for attending, and thanks in advance for playing with the tool. Any questions? Yeah. So the question is, how does it handle Nmap scanning?
So when you run Nmap against those ports, it'll respond back with the port that's open. It'll tell you if it's HTTP request back. So yeah, like if the web port's open, it'll tell you HTTP. It's not encrypted, so it's not HTTP, yes. And also telnet, yes. It would come back as telnet. So.
Yeah. So one of the things that I want to stress again is the whole tool is built on the idea of stimulus response. So if you have somebody sending in an Nmap, it responds appropriately. One of the other things that we were playing around with, and it's tricky, but one of the things that we're hoping eventually to do is do things like even emulate vulnerable systems and listen for interpreter shells. And then you can, based off of the shell code that is being sent to that port, we could send back potentially, fingers crossed, potentially send back fake interpreter sessions. That would be really fun. Now, that's something that we're going to have to spend a lot of time with because the Metasploit guys are really sharp, and there's going to be a long uphill battle for that, but that's some of the goals that we have ultimately for. Yeah, question in the back. Okay, so the question, if I want to make sure that I got it right, is, so you have different attacks coming from a variety of sources. Do you have a way to organize it? So at present, no. One of the things that we're going to be working on in addition to the response modules is a group of reporting modules. I'm really big, those of you guys who know me know that I'm really big about data visualization, and I've got a rough sketch of how to take those log sources, turn them into JSON, and use a framework called D3JS to make it very nice and easy to interact with. So that is something that we're aware of. We're still trying to build out core concepts first, and then we'll get there. But yeah, I like where you're thinking. And yes? So for those of you who didn't hear that, that wasn't a question, that was more a comment. And to paraphrase, what they do on their honeypots are they make zip bombs. So they're very tightly compressed, highly optimized files, but when you open them up, they literally fill up, the entire hard drive, and all of a sudden, blue screen of death. I like that. I like your style. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, very, very powerful demotivators. Glad you brought that up. The comment was, we're going to have to do some stuff for OS fingerprinting. Yes. So I don't know how many folks are familiar with the work that Adrian Crenshaw has done, but he has an older tool that he did years ago where he actually he hacked, it was for Windows, but we're going to take the same techniques, but he would listen in on the different types of SYN field settings and et cetera, and give a response to whatever was appropriate. I loved Adrian's tool that allowed you to do that, because you could do some crazy stuff, like say that you're a Commodore 64, which ain't no school like the old school. So yeah, there are some techniques that we'll have to be mindful of. And for those of you who are really hardcore packet ninjas, yes, if they are on the local LAN, it gets a lot harder to hide against that, and we're aware of that. But hopefully, you're not going to have this on an area that's in the LAN already. Okay, so repeat the question, and that is totally you. So the question. All right. So the question was, when you're interacting with like that telnet and you believe that you have a cmd.exe, how do you ensure that there's no variance between the cmd.exe environment and what we're presenting in the honeypot? And Adam did some really cool stuff for that.
So basically, pretty much what I did was the server is multi-threaded. So once an attacker connects to the box, it kind of waits for that telnet response, and also either if they use netcat also, it dynamically changes for the response rate, and basically says, I'm going to kick you a kind of like a banner that comes back to you and pretty much says, put in your credentials here. If you fail 3 times, pretty much it's log out. Oh, the net commands. Okay, sorry. So what I did was I took mostly all of the net commands, and it's very difficult because once you're pretty much replaying a whole entire OS inside of a Python script, right? It's insane, right? So you can do this forever, right? So what I tried to do was, so I had a kind of like a array of commands that I would use, and based off of that first set in that array, once they typed out the command, I kind of pulled that out and said, what type of command is this? If it's type, we support it. Go to the type kind of like if-then statement or other statements, and it goes through and kind of generates whatever you think net looks like based on that. So, and some of it is dynamic also. So like when you set up the actual server, you can set different users, and we're going to be developing it a little bit more out, but it kind of displays like dynamic users, so you don't have the same user every time. So if I come pull in this box and you look at it and you're like, oh, R. Smith, I saw that at DerbyCon. Like, this is a honeypot. No, like, we're going to dynamically change the data as we set the server up, and it's going to have configurations that are going to change the whole entire OS once it's done. So it's not just going to be like this is the same honeypot every time. You're always going to see the same stuff. So, cool.
Yep. For how we're figuring out which OS commands to emulate and handle, there was a Google Doc that Rob Fuller, Mubix, made. And it's the post-exploitation cheat sheet for various operating systems. And we're using that as our primary building block. So that's where we're throwing a lot of resources at. But great question. Yeah, because that is how most are caught, like defeated. Yes, sir. So the question is, what happens if you created a directory or added a new user? So at present, we don't have make dir, but we're building out the different capabilities. There's plenty of ways right now that you could see that this is a fake environment. Like if you did to echo percent variables, like echo percent username percent, that doesn't work. Or if you echo percent computer name, that doesn't work yet. So we're building this up, and we've got high hopes. Oh, well, so how do we handle the limitations? Ultimately, what we're going to wind up having to do, just because this is an infinite, like, fractal type problem, we'll have to do something that emulates, like, GPO prevented you from doing this, or some policy orchestrator prevented you from doing this. Yep.
Just like WMIC, I mean, there's some templates where you can pretty much disable it on Windows boxes, right? So for commands that we want to, not go down that route sometimes, and it's better to put more development into other commands rather than WMIC commands, because that's huge, right? We kind of created something that says, like, access denied, like as if there was a template applied to that box. So
yeah, and so I've noticed, since pen testers and attackers really love PowerShell, I've had 3 clients in the not too distant past that they've actually prevented end users from having PowerShell on the desktop. So this sort of thing of where you go into an environment and you want to run PowerShell and having it be, like, not permitted is, like, a fairly realistic environment in certain ways. So great question. Any other questions? All right. Well, there's going to, if you want to chat with us after the talk, we're going to be over at the Security Weekly table in the vendor area. So stop by, say hi. The code is out there, available right now on GitHub. The Besamo Rhino is an old BBS handle of mine. So I created that GitHub a little while ago, so we're kind of stuck with that. So check it out. It's kind of janky. I hope you don't take offense that I say that, but it's a working work in progress. Yeah. So come play with it, have fun, and yeah. Thanks for stopping by.